Yo, what a guan? Welcome to Move to Jamaica YouTube channel. So you want to move to Jamaica, man? Beautiful island, 14 parishes. So if you want to buy a car, for example, what do? You test drive it. Not true. Yeah, man. I bet you test drive the car most of the time. So in the same way, I would encourage people to pick a spot that intrigues them. Obviously, talk to other Jamaicans in forums online, do your own research with artificial intelligence. Better to obviously talk to people who have experience, maybe like other expats, because an expat perspective might be different. Or if you're a returning resident, like a Jamaican returning, if it's been like 15, 20 years, I can guarantee you, having traveled to 20 countries and been away for so long, the Jamaica that you left behind is not the same. So you can even start by pulling up a map like this. Because remember, for example, Kingston life, very different from Mandeville life. And Mandeville life, very different from Negro life. If you want to move to the beach areas, that's all good, man. But the reality is, a lot of people don't understand your life in Jamaica won't always be swimming because remember, you still have to work, you still have to do life. Visiting and living are two different things. But, anyways, let's get right to the point why I'm showing this map. So, if you want to move to Jamaica, pick a town, a village that you're interested in or that has grabbed your attention, and ask yourself the hard questions. Can I sustain a life in these places? Because your life in wherever you're coming from, even if it's from another third world island or something, it's going to be completely different. Can this island sustain your needs? So let's take Mandeville, for example. I was born and raised here, man. Well, the first 10 years of my life. So Mandeville, Manchester, Mandeville is in Manchester Parish. It's a place that a lot of returning residents or even expats from the UK, they like to come here. For one, the climate is very cool. Not too hot. Yes, it can get a little chilly. I mean, if you're coming from North America, you might not consider it cold, but it can drop below 20 degrees Celsius for sure, in my experience. And ask yourself the question, does the town that I want to move to, do they have hospitals? So 1, 2 hospital. And yes, Mandeville does have a police station, a fire station, and not just hospitals, but other healthcare centers, places of worship. This is a very, very good school, Bel Air High School, Bel Air Preparatory School. You can even look this up for yourself, right? And the cool thing about Mandeville is the houses are very well built, nice houses, no joke business. The average house in Mandeville, Manchester, in my view, and I think not just my view, but it's facts, is way much better than an average house in the United States. So as I said before, you got other medical centers in addition to the hospitals. See, another medical place. I'm not looking for these places on purpose. And the thing I like about Mandeville is the greenery. You get that green country, kind of like an Irish vibe, and you still have access to most of your amenities. A lot of nice neighborhoods in Mandeville. It's relatively safe. It's very hilly. I like the lush green again. You can go in the forest, feel cool. And yeah, there's so many other hidden gems on the outskirts of Mandeville. And you do have you know, your recreational centers. You can play some golf. So, for those who don't know, Manchester Golf Club is the first golf course in the Western Hemisphere. So before America, before Canada, Jamaica had the first golf course. So little history lesson for you. And Manchester and Mandeville, they do have a lot of historical stuff, you know, historical buildings. It's very different vibe from Kingston. So if this is a place that interests you, you can do some more research on it. So lots of great schools here, places of worship, lots of great homes. People here very nice, but it might not be the place for you. So wherever you want to move to in Jamaica, just pick the spot, go there for like a few weeks, ask the hard questions, check out the hospitals, check out the schools. Are there resources there for me that can help me sustain a life in Jamaica for however long I'm staying? If yes, give it a go. Remember, as I said, the life that you left in Jamaica, if you're a returning resident, is not necessarily the same. In the same way, if you're coming from a place like the UK, Canada, England, wherever, Europe, you're going to have to adjust. Just as how we Jamaicans, when we move to abroad, it's a big learning curve for us. And I remember growing up, going to this place. This is where I learned how to swim in this small pool right here, man. My dad used to play tennis here. My mom used to play badminton here. And we're talking like this place been around for a hot minute, like in the 90s. But anyways, I'm going over to the next presentation. I want to show you several things that you must consider doing before moving to Jamaica or anywhere in the world. Hang tight. Yeah, man. So before you move to Jamaica, you should give it a test run, man. Because as I said before, Jamaica just might not be the place for you. And with a test run, you can feel the environment. You can see the environment, make some connections, ask some difficult questions. No place will be perfect, but with some preparation, you can make the move a little bit more seamless. No, I understand not everybody can get 30 days off, 60 days off, but at the end of the day, if you're going to be making a major life-changing decision, it's worth giving it a test run. And even after the test run, you've come to realize Jamaica is not the place for me, man. It will still be a grand experience. So let's take a look at some critical things that you must do if you're considering giving Jamaica a test run and moving there long term. So in Jamaica, we used Mandeville as an example. Like, okay, I want to live in Mandeville, but this is Kingston. And in Mandeville, we saw that there were 2 hospitals. Now, Kingston has several hospitals. So whichever town you're considering, ask, is there a hospital in this town? And how reliable is that hospital? This is University of the West Indies Hospital. It's one of the best hospitals in the Caribbean. And there is a private wing, a lot more fancy hospital than this. It's located on the same compound. It's called the Tony Thwaites Wing. You gotta have some big money for that one, but that one you can get more fancy hospital care and stuff. But this hospital is still good. So if you have an emergency in the middle of the night, you can come to this hospital. And the same goes for most other hospitals in Jamaica. So when you're actually on the ground in Jamaica, you can check out the facilities, right? And keep in mind, Jamaica is still a developing country. We're not the first world country yet, but we still have some first class services at the same time. But at the same time, I have to be very honest with you, with major surgeries and other services like that, it will have to be done overseas. And I know Jamaica have liaised with like different hospitals overseas, air ambulances that have that all arranged. I am sharing this to just get you to like think that, okay, can I live with this? Can I leave my so-called first world safe hospitals behind and be okay with that? And another thing to consider is hospital care is free for Jamaica residents for like the public hospitals. I think University Hospital is the only public hospital you have to pay out of pocket or with insurance. And ask yourself this question: what kind of insurance will I bring to Jamaica that can help with this? So, just some things to think about. And as we use Mandeville as an example, like in some rural communities, a lot of rural communities will have their own police station. But let me be honest with you, police response, it's not going to always be the same. Like in America, Canada, and even in Canada, as a former police officer in Canada, when you're in deep rural places, police response can be like hour and a half easily. I can tell you that because I've been a police before. But, like in most major cities in North America, police response time is usually quick. And in Jamaica, it's hit or miss, right? But like I know from experience in Kingston, it's quick. So ask yourself this question: what is the fire service like? What is the police situation like? Does Jamaica have a military? Yes, we do. Do we have Navy? Not that that's important. Yes, we do. It's also popular for many businesses and middle class, well, I would say more like upper class homes, to have their own private security and sometimes armed. So, whichever place you're looking into, visit these places, like ask, am I okay with these services as they are in the town that I want to choose in? So, social services in Jamaica, we do have counselors, we do have psychologists. If you're moving like with a child, or if yourself, you're dealing with personal crisis, your child might need special needs services like for mental health. We do have those services. And wherever you're going, does that town have it? And even if they don't have it, are you willing to make the commute in that parish respective capital, which could be like maybe like an extra 45 minutes, an hour? And I believe a lot of these places do require payments. I'm not 100% sure on insurance, but you're going to have to pay for these places. Like in Canada, well, even in Canada as well, you do have to pay for like social, like some of these services you can get government funding. So obviously, if you're on the ground in Jamaica, that's something that you're going to have to figure out, and you can do that online as well. And the good news is, since 2016, counselors and psychologists, they do have to register with a licensing body, like in the same for the States, UK, and Canada. So you're getting, legitimate services. And of course, like with every practitioner, therapist, you're going to have to like do your own research to see what's best. So when coming to Jamaica, this is something important. And this doesn't mean you have to have a condition to access these services. It's still good to get some counseling once in a while to keep your mental health in check. In the same way, like when we go to the doctor and work out in the gym to keep our physical fitness level healthy. So in Jamaica, this is very, very, very important. If you're coming with kids, man, do some research on the schools. Yes, Jamaica, it is true that when a lot of Jamaicans go abroad, they do well because the schools they're strict. A lot of the time they're strict. But when you're on the ground in your trial run in Jamaica, hit up a school and ask questions. If your child has, if they learn differently, let's just put it that way, because everyone's different, right? Can that school accommodate your child's needs? Even if they can't and you're still keen on moving to that town, what other services are in that town or in the outskirts, in the capital of that parish that can help you and your child? Very, very important. The last thing you want to do is move there and you realize, geez, this school is not cutting it for my child. I've seen a couple of videos of expats saying, man, I had to pull my child out of that school because it just wasn't the right fit. So something to keep in mind. And I'm sure schools would appreciate getting to know you, you being a prospect coming into residence. They see that you're trying out the place, right? And also just review like testing standards because it might be very different from where you're coming from. And your child or maybe yourself might have a difficult time adapting to that new change. But growing up in Jamaica, I've been in classes with kids from the States, from Canada, from China, and they've all adapted. So it is a possibility. So this is talked about a lot. Moving to Jamaica, Jamaican banks are known to be very, very long, like having long lines. And that goes for like tax services, that goes for like other government services. And I know this AI photo is a bit of an exaggeration. I would highly recommend, if you're using banking services in Jamaica, make it a morning thing because this can tie up your day very easily. You could spend anywhere from like half an hour, well, let's not exaggerate, from like 15 minutes to like 2 hours in a bank. I don't get it because a lot of the banks in Jamaica are like Canadian banks. We got Scotiabank. We used to have RBC. We have CIBC, but CIBC is now leaving. Okay, what I'm getting at is when you're dealing with administration services in Jamaica, visit these places like when you come, and you're going to quickly realize that, geez, unlike the States or Canada or maybe the UK, I cannot come to these places like in the middle of the day because I remember in Jamaica, like the bank, for example, would close. I think it would close like at 3 p.m. So you got to come here like early. So that way your time is not wasted. So this will be a big culture shock for you when you're adapting to life in Jamaica. So recreational services, very, very important because maybe you're an avid soccer player. Well, we'll call it football. Baseball player. We don't have too much of that in Jamaica. I know we might have softball, but it's very limited. Or hockey player. So that's something you might have to give up. We do have field hockey, but I think it's only in Kingston. So this is something that you would want to research in the town that you're moving to. Visit some of these clubs, facilities, and ask about how do I partake and join. I know like in Kingston, You do have pickleball. There is a growing pickleball community in Kingston, which is cool. As I showed in Mandeville, there's tennis. In Jamaica, we got cricket. What else do we have? We have other sports, man. Obviously, track and field. So you're going to learn very quickly that sports in Jamaica, the sporting world, like joining a club and stuff like that, it's very different from what you're used to in North America or elsewhere. So in Jamaica, transportation is going to be a big adjustment for you. If you're coming from the States, we drive on the wrong side of the road, which is the left side. And when you're at the intersections, that's when things can get a little tricky. Not to mention, we have lots of potholes and stuff. If you do take public transportation, look out for red plates. Red plate cars are legit, or red plate buses. And yes, they're known to drive crazy, play some loud music. It's part of the fun. But you're going to have to ask yourself the question, is this something I can live with, right? So in Jamaica, to Jamaica's credits, in like Kingston, Montego Bay, from what I understand, we do have Amazon services. I think like a third party company will deliver the product for you, or you can pick it up at a specific location. We do have FedEx, we do have DHL, and yes, we do have Jamaica Post, but like the FedEx and those things can be a bit pricey. So if you're used to having overnight like deliveries to your house, that's something you're going to have to, like, I don't know, give up in Jamaica. That's going to be a difficult adjustment for you. And like I said, you could still use Amazon, but you won't likely get it overnight, and you may have to pay a little bit of like taxes and duties on your fancy electronics. And that's the thing in Jamaica, the markups on imports like electronics, like on your Apple computer, it's going to be a lot more expensive. Cell phones, reasonable because you can get pay as you go plans, but I find the options in my experience when it comes to cell phone plans kind of limited compared to what you have in first world countries. So these are, when you're on the ground in Jamaica, I would encourage you to check out places. Like you can do that stuff online, but I'm telling you, when you're actually there on the ground, it's a whole different experience. You can learn quickly, the layout of the land, what to expect. So something to think about. And by the way, we do have first world type of supermarkets like Mega Marts. We do have like Hilo. In Kingston, we got Losushan, very, very fancy supermarkets. But a lot of these nice supermarkets carry imported stuff, very expensive. I remember shopping in Jamaica. We went for 2 months a few years ago, and the price that I was paying was equivalent to the price here. I'm like, how does the average Jamaican manage? But a lot of Jamaicans like to shop in the markets where it's a lot cheaper, or wholesale places. So yes, in Jamaica, it's more civilized than you think. A lot of the shopping scene does look like this, and this is not an exaggeration. So in Jamaica, if you move here, it's not always going to be laid back as people make it to be. Reality still follows you. You still got to pay your bills. What's your cash flow going to be like, right? You still got to deal with reality. You might even have some expenses at home that you're still taking care of. So that's something you would want to think about before coming here. So I think this is the last one. Cash is king in Jamaica. Yeah, when I was in Jamaica, I used my credit card and at the terminals a lot, and debit card for ATM withdrawals. And that's the thing I forgot to mention about the banks.